You can now see NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway on your screen in between Sophie and Neil. And Jack is providing assistance from inside the space station for today's spacewalk, along with NASA astronaut Jessica Meir. Again, teams are continuing to prepare for an approximately 6.5-hour spacewalk today. That spacewalk scheduled to begin around 7:35 a.m. Central, 8:35 a.m. Eastern Time. The teams are a little bit ahead of schedule. However, they are expected to pause an upcoming MEDOX or medical oxygen canister changeout to stay on track with the planned timeline. The crew recently completed their pre-breathe protocol, and this protocol purges nitrogen from the bloodstream to prevent decompression sickness, also known as the bends, which is a condition that scuba divers can also experience if they ascend too quickly. There are 2 phases to that pre-breathe protocol that the astronauts perform before any spacewalk, and that first phase is performed using a mask pre-breathe with 100% oxygen. And then most recently, they completed what is known as in-suit light exercise. During that portion of the pre-breathe, they move their arms and legs to speed up their metabolic rate, which helps purge excess nitrogens. The in-suit light exercise was completed about 15 minutes ago, around 5:50 a.m. Central, 6:50 a.m. Eastern Time. And then again, coming up, they will be completing the MEDOX or medical oxygen canister replacements. And these MEDOX canisters, along with LiO or lithium hydroxide, are part of the life support system of the extravehicular activity mobility unit, or EMU, which is the white spacesuit that is worn by the astronauts when they go on a spacewalk.
And airlock for go in 6, step 16.
And Jack, stand by. We're still checking on the HECA cameras, and we'd like to get that resolved before we move on to step 16.
No worries. We'll sit tight.
And Airlock Houston, we can give you the go in step 8 for the EMU cameras, and then once that is complete, you are go to pick up in step 16.
We'll go for step 8 to shut off the HECAs, and then once we're complete with that, we're into step 16.
Good copy.
This is Mission Control Houston. You just heard some communication there between NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway, who's again there in the center of your screen, currently on board the International Space Station, as he assists NASA astronaut Anil Menon and ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adano, through some preparation ahead of today's spacewalk. They are referencing a HECA, which is the HD EMU, or Extravehicular Mobility Unit Camera Assembly, and those are attached to the spacesuits that you see the crew wearing there, and provide some of those point-of-view cameras throughout the spacewalk.
2.120. We have serial number 1033 to put into EV1. Looking for your go.
We copy 1033, and that's a good number.
Copy. Go for EV1.
And those communications with NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway taking place with the Capcom, or capsule communicator, here in Mission Control. Currently, the Orbit 1 Capcom is still communicating with the crew on board the International Space Station, and that is Kathy Bolt serving in that position. Once the shift handover between Orbit 1 and 2 is complete, the Capcom for the Orbit 2 shift will be Steven Zenter, and he will be the one providing communication with the crew on board the International Space Station. However, there will also be a ground IV, and that will be the individual responsible for communicating with the spacewalkers outside of the International Space Station. And the ground IV for today is NASA astronaut Anne McClain, so she will be coming on console here shortly as well. Now, today's spacewalk is the 283rd spacewalk in support of station assembly, maintenance, and upgrades. This is also the 6th spacewalk to be conducted outside of the International Space Station this year, and the 3rd for Expedition 75. NASA astronaut Neil Menon will be wearing the suit with the red stripes, and he is EV number 1. And this is his 3rd spacewalk, following 2 spacewalks earlier this month on August 6th and 18th, previously logging 12 hours and 50 minutes outside of the International Space Station. Sophie Adeno, who is an ESA astronaut, will be wearing the unmarked suit, serving as EV number 2. This is her 2nd spacewalk after her first, taking place last week on August 18th, which totaled 6 hours and 23 minutes of spacewalking time outside of the International Space Station. And again, inside the International Space Station, NASA astronauts Jack Hathaway and Jessica Meir will be supporting Menon and Adeno throughout today's operations. Hathaway will also be primed for some of the robotics operations with the Canadarm, and Meir will be backing him up. On board the International Space Station is, of course, the Expedition 75 crew. So in addition to Jessica, Jack, Sophie, and Anil, we have Roscosmos cosmonauts Andrei Fedyaev and Pyotr Dubrov, as well as Anna Kikina. Mission Control Houston for the Orbit 2 team, which will be executing today's spacewalk, is of course led by Flight Director Chris Dobbins, and then Sandy Fletcher is serving as the lead spacewalk officer for today. Speaking with the crew, again, you will hear the Capcom or capsule communicator Steven Zinter for Orbit 2, and then once the spacewalk begins, you will hear that voice of NASA astronaut Anne McClain serving as the ground IV, and she is responsible for guiding the spacewalkers through their procedures today, while the Capcom will continue speaking with the rest of the space station crew. The spacewalk officially begins when the astronauts switch their suits to internal battery power. Again, the spacewalk time is currently targeted to begin at around 7:35 a.m. Central, 8:35 a.m. Eastern Time. This is Mission Control Houston. Again, the teams on board the International Space Station, as well as the flight controllers here on the ground, are working in tandem in preparation for today's upcoming spacewalk, U.S. Spacewalk 98. That spacewalk currently targeted to begin around 7:35 a.m. Central, 8:35 a.m. Eastern Time. The spacewalkers for today are NASA astronaut Neil Menon and ESA or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adeno. And the spacesuits that you see Menon and Adeno wearing are known as the EMU, or Extravehicular Mobility Unit. This suit is an independent system that provides environmental protection, mobility, life support, and communications for crew members to perform a spacewalk. The EMU consists of the suit assembly as well as the life support system. The spacesuit assembly is the suit itself that encloses the crew member, and the life support system is attached to the back of the suit to provide oxygen for breathing and suit pressurization, water for cooling, carbon dioxide scrubbing, battery power, and radio, as well as a caution and warning system to monitor the suit's status. These spacesuits are fitted on the ground and then adjusted in orbit to account for spinal elongation and fluid shifts. Engineers take about 80 measurements to tailor each suit, assembling it from roughly 16 major elements, including multiple sizes for torsos, elbow and knee joints, adjustable waists, and dozens of glove sizes. On their forearms, there's typically procedure cards, which are references for the steps they'll perform throughout a spacewalk.
But the MEDOX canister for EV2 is 1034.
And Houston copies. We saw that in the view. That's a good number.
And airlock, step 11, we're pausing the in-suit pre-breathe clock, GMT 1114.
Copy, 1114.
This is Mission Control Houston. You are hearing some communication there between NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway, currently on board the International Space Station, there in the center of your screen. He's speaking with the Capcom, or capsule communicator, here on the ground, who currently for the Orbit 1 shift is Kathy Bolt. Again, the Orbit 1 and 2 teams are currently completing a shift handover, and the Orbit 2 team coming on console will be responsible for executing today's spacewalk. You did hear NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway referencing some MEDOX canisters. He was providing some serial numbers and updates related to the canister changeouts. And those MEDOX canisters are medical oxygen canisters, along with the LiO, or lithium hydroxide canisters, are part of the life support system of the EMU, or the extravehicular mobility unit, which again are those white spacesuits that are worn by the astronauts for a spacewalk. On the right-hand side of your screen, there you can see EV1 with the red stripes. Again, that is NASA astronaut Neil Minin for today's spacewalk. And on the left-hand side of your screen is ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adeneau, serving as EV2. Also there in the Quest airlock toward the back portion, you can also see NASA astronaut Jessica Meir, who is providing support alongside Jack inside of the airlock, inside the International Space Station today.
Houston airlock, step 18, extended MEDOX canisters, serial number 0020 and serial number 0022.
We copy 0020 and 0022.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, you're hearing those communications between NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway on board the International Space Station and the Capcom or capsule communicator here in Mission Control. Currently Kathy Bolt, but that will soon be taken over by Steven Zinter. Again, he's referencing some MEDOX canisters, which are the medical oxygen canisters. There are two different types of containment control cartridges used in the extravehicular mobility unit, or EMU, which again is those white spacesuits that the crew wears to go outside of the International Space Station on a spacewalk. And they're a means to contain trace contaminants and carbon dioxide from the EMU atmosphere. Again, the EMU, or extravehicular mobility unit, contains the suit assembly as well as the life support system. So those canisters are part of that life support system, providing carbon dioxide scrubbing. And then the spacesuit is basically a self-contained spaceship, so it provides
21 in-suit pre-breathe clock resume, GMT 1118.
Okay, we copy. Pre-breathe clock resumed at 1118.
So the suit provides oxygen for breathing and suit pressurization, water for cooling, carbon dioxide scrubbing, battery power, and more. And the spacesuit operates at a pressure of 4.3 psi, or pounds per square inch, which compared to 14.7 psi inside the space station. And that pressure difference is why the pre-breathe protocol is necessary. Again, you were hearing NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway communicate about some of that pre-breathe to the teams here on the ground, specifically regarding some times for that pre-breathe protocol and the clocks that they're monitoring. The pre-breathe protocol has two different portions to it. The first portion, the astronauts perform a masked pre-breathe with 100% oxygen, and then they complete what is known as in-suit light exercise, which was completed a little bit ago. And during that in-suit light exercise, the spacewalkers move their arms and legs to speed up their metabolic rate, which helps purge excess nitrogen. Due to the pressure differences in the suits and the station, the pre-breathe protocol is necessary in order to purge nitrogen from the bloodstream to prevent decompression sickness. Again, that is also known as the bends, which is a condition that scuba divers can also experience.
Houston, airlock 2 good manual leak checks, and we're proceeding into step 17 to get them off the UDAs into the crew lock.
Okay, we copy all, and we'll go with that plan. And just letting you know, I'll be handing over to O2 Capcom shortly, and wish you guys the best of luck for the rest of the day.
Okay, we really appreciate your help.
This is Mission Control Houston as teams continue to prepare for today's upcoming spacewalk. Again, that is U.S. Spacewalk 98. You heard a few different call-outs there. Again, those call-downs coming from NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway as he prepares NASA astronaut Neil Menon and ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adano, who you can see there on your screen, for their upcoming spacewalk. they were referencing moving into the crew lock. So right now they are in the equipment lock portion of the Quest airlock, and then they will begin moving into the crew lock portion right beyond that hatch that you can see there in the center of your screen. From there, they will conduct final communications checks as well as final suit system checks before they switch their suits on to internal battery power. Now, before they began that movement into the crew lock, they did complete some initial suit leak checks and confirmed that everything was looking good for both of the spacesuits that the spacewalkers are wearing for today. As they make their way into the crew lock, both of the crew members will don or put on the safer unit, and there you can see NASA astronaut Jessica Meir carrying one of those units over to NASA astronaut Neil Menon with the red stripes there on your screen. The SAFER stands for the Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue. It is sort of like a jet pack that is attached to the back of the spacesuits. And while the crew members each have 2 tethers attaching them to the space station at all times, the SAFER serves as a backup mechanism should they get detached. So as they move into the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock of the International Space Station, each of the crew members will have these SAFER mechanisms attached to the back of the spacesuits. Once both of the crew members are moved into the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock, the hatch between the crew lock and the equipment lock will be closed. And again, they will then complete some final communication checks as well as final suit system checks. And then depressurization of the crew lock portion will also begin to bring the airlock down to vacuum to match that of the rest of space. The crew lock begins at 14.7 psi or pounds per square inch, of course matching the rest of the International Space Station and is similar to what we experience here on Earth. During the initial depressurization, the crew lock will go down to about 5 psi. There will be a brief pause to allow flight controllers to check out systems and for the crew members to complete some final suit leak checks. The depressurization process will then continue all the way down to vacuum, and once the crew lock depressurization is complete, the spacewalkers will be able to open the outer thermal hatch and then the hatch on the crew lock section prior to placing their suits on internal battery power. Again, when they turn their suits onto battery power, it will mark the official start of today's spacewalk. The entire crew lock depressurization process takes about 30 minutes to complete. And as a reminder, today's spacewalk is currently expected to last about 6.5 hours, beginning around 7:35 a.m. Central, 8:35 a.m. Eastern Time.
That's because of how that battery seats.
This is Mission Control Houston. There on your screen, you can see a live look inside the equipment lock portion of the Quest airlock on board the International Space Station. NASA astronauts Jack Hathaway and Jessica Meir are currently attaching the SAFER, the Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue, onto NASA astronaut Neil Menon's spacesuit that he will be wearing outside of the International Space Station. And of course, he has the red stripes there on his legs, indicating that he is EV1. He will shortly be moved into that crew lock portion, and then the same process will be followed for ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adano. We are currently in a brief but expected loss of signal. We do expect to regain signal here momentarily. And this happens when there is a transition between the TDRS, or Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System. Today's spacewalk is expected to last about 6.5 hours. And it's the 3rd of this month.
One, new TCV setting of 5.
Copy, setting of 5.
And today's spacewalk is the 3rd of this month and the 6th out of the International Space Station this year. Again, the primary goal for today's spacewalk is to finish replacing the space-to-ground antenna, or the SGANT, on the International Space Station's Z1 truss. This work initially began last week on August 18th when Neil and Sophie conducted a 6-hour and 23-minute spacewalk to remove the failed antenna and secure it on the station's truss structure. However, the crew needed a little bit more time than expected to disconnect some electrical cables and loosen bolts, which delayed the installation of the replacement antenna. So today, the spacewalkers will go ahead and retrieve the new unit and complete that installation. Once both NASA astronaut Neil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adano are moved into the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock on board the International Space Station, the hatch between the crew and equipment lock will be closed, and they will begin that depressurization process. That entire process takes about 30 minutes to complete. The spacewalk will officially begin when the suits are switched to battery power. Again, that spacewalk start time is currently targeted for around 7:35 a.m. Central, 8:35 a.m. Eastern. Once they complete that depressurization, the spacewalkers will then open the outer thermal hatch and then the hatch on the crew lock section. NASA astronaut Neil Menon, serving as EV1 with the red stripes, will exit first, and then he will be followed by ESA astronaut Sophie Adano, who's serving as EV2 today with the unmarked suit. They will then go ahead and set up their tools and tethers, turn on their helmet cameras, and begin to set up the SSRMS, which is the Space Station Robotic Manipulator System, basically the Canadarm2 robotic arm. And then they will make their way to External Stowage Platform 3, or ESP3, to retrieve the spare SGANT, which stands for the Space-to-Ground Antenna. Additionally, when they first exit the Quest airlock, NASA astronaut Neil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adano will perform what are called buddy checks, basically examining each other's suits and tethers to make sure that everything is in order before they move away from the airlock. After that is complete, NASA astronaut Neil Menon, serving as EV1, will go ahead and retrieve the foot restraint from an external pallet, and he will set up the Space Station Remote Manipulator System, again, that robotic arm that he will be strapped into for the duration of today's spacewalk. So he will strap his feet into a portable foot restraint, or a PFR, at the end of the Canadarm2 robotic arm, and then he will be maneuvered to various work sites, carrying the spare antenna from its current location on the External Stowage Platform 3, which is on the Port 3 truss of the space station. It will be moved to the work site at the Z1 truss to be installed and then subsequently activated by ground controllers here in Mission Control. The robotic arm will be primarily operated today by NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway, and he will be assisted by NASA astronaut Jessica Meir from inside the International Space Station. And while NASA astronaut Neil Menon, serving as EV1, rides the arm to the spare antenna work site and begins releasing some bolts, EV2, who is Sophie Adano, will be assisting from the truss structure. Anil will remove the spare antenna, and the arm will then move to the installation location at the Z1 truss. And at that point, EV2, which is Sophie Adano, will then translate back along the truss. So they will be making their way to ESP3, which is on the port 3 truss of the space station, remove the spare ESCANT, which again is the only spare that is left on board the International Space Station. They maneuver it to its installation location on the Z1 truss to complete the replacement of the faulty space-to-ground antenna that was removed last week. Once it's installed, there will be some system checkouts by the ground control team here in Mission Control Houston, and it will restore the full redundancy to the space-to-ground communications system of the International Space Station. Once the installation of that spare is complete, the next task is to retrieve the failed ESCANT. Again, that failed ESCANT or space-to-ground antenna was removed last week and temporarily stowed. So it will be the job of ESA astronaut Sophie Adano to go ahead and retrieve that failed antenna from its temporary stowage location, and then she will pass it along to EV1, who is NASA astronaut Neil Menon, and they will also clean up the work site while dropping off the tool bag at the airlock and heading outbound for the next task. To stow the ESCANT, again the failed one, they will be installing a couple of bolts. And then after that is complete, EV1 and Neil Menon will return to the arm ingress location. Again, that is where he would have got into the portable foot restraint of the SSRMS, which is the Canadarm2 robotic arm. And while Anil is doing that, Sophie will then translate back to the airlock to prepare for ingress. Again, this is expected to be a 6-hour and 30-minute spacewalk to complete both the spare ESCANT retrieval and installation, as well as retrieving the failed ESCANT and stowing it into its permanent stowage location. If time allows, the crew will also attempt a get-ahead task to replace a retroreflector on the forward port of the Harmony module to improve navigation data for visiting spacecraft. And the space-to-ground antenna is a dish-shaped unit and one of two that sit side by side on the Z1 truss. Last November, ESCANT-2 began experiencing periodic pointing issues during auto-track operations, meaning it wasn't properly gimbaling or orienting itself to communicate using NASA's Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System, or TDRS. And as a result, the flight control team switched operations to ESCANT number 1, which continues to provide that high-rate video, voice, and telemetry for flight controllers here in Houston and at other control centers around the world. For a little bit of history, the very first space-to-ground antenna that was installed on the International Space Station's Z1 truss was carried into orbit on the STS-92 mission in October of 2000 and installed by astronauts Leroy Chow and Bill MacArthur. And the spare ESCANT, or space-to-ground antenna, that is being installed today to replace the degraded antenna was delivered on the STS-127 mission back in July of 2009 and installed by astronauts Dave Wolf and Tom Marshburn. The faulty antenna that's being replaced and that was temporarily stowed last week was initially installed on the STS-132 mission in May of 2010 by astronauts Garrett Reisman and Steve Bowen. The replacement antenna for today has been parked on ESP3, again, external stowage platform.
Space to ground 1. Earlier we copied a partial call regarding the safer on Anil's suit. We're looking for clarification on if you had to reseat the battery on the safer or just fix the MLI.
Yeah, we were just reseating some MLI, so it was in a more comfortable position. There's nothing wrong with the safer at all. Everything is nominal.
Copy, thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston. You just heard a call down from NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway. You can see there on the left-hand side of your screen. He was speaking with the Capcom, or capsule communicator, here in Mission Control Houston, who for the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers now on console is Steven Zinter. They were referencing a SAFER, and that stands for Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue. And both of the crew members going out on today's spacewalk, NASA astronaut Neil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adano, have those SAFER units attached to their EMUs, or the white spacesuits that they are currently wearing. And it basically serves as a jetpack-like device should they become untethered from the space station. However, both crew members always have a 2-point tether attached to the International Space Station, so that is very unlikely to happen. And there in the center of your screen, you can see both NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway as well as NASA astronaut Jessica Meir. They're currently assisting ESA, or European Space Agency, astronaut Sophie Adano into the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock. NASA astronaut Neil Menon was moved into there first as EV1, and now Sophie is joining him. Once they are fully situated into the crew lock portion, the hatch in between the crew lock and equipment lock of the Quest airlock, which you can see that hatchway there on your screen that Jessica Meir is currently touching, will be closed, and they will begin the depressurization process down to vacuum of that crew lock portion. This is Mission Control Houston, live from the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston, Texas. Currently, the Orbit 2 team of flight controllers is on console, being led by NASA Flight Director Chris Dobbins. And the Orbit 2 team is responsible for executing today's spacewalk. Again, today's spacewalk is U.S. Spacewalk 98. Serving as EV1 is NASA astronaut Neil Menon, and serving as EV2 is ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adano. Both of the crew members are currently in the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock. They're at the latter half of your screen, and there you can see NASA astronaut Jessica Meir as she begins to close the hatch between the crew lock and the equipment lock portion of the Quest airlock. Once that hatch is closed, they will begin the depressurization process. That entire depressurization process takes about 30 minutes to complete. Currently, the crew lock and the equipment lock, as well as the rest of the International Space Station, are sitting at a pressure of about 14.7 psi, or pounds per square inch, which is similar to the pressure that we experience here on Earth. However, the EMUs, or the white spacesuits that the crew members wear to go out on a spacewalk, are at a pressure of about 4.3 psi. And then the crew lock will be depressed down to vacuum to match that of space. Once the depressurization process is complete, the crew members going out on today's spacewalk, again, NASA astronaut Neil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adano, will switch their spacesuits onto battery power, which will mark the official start of today's spacewalk. Again, today's spacewalk is expected to last about 6.5 hours.
Airlock steps 76 and 77 are complete. You guys are go for 78.
Copy and work.
And you just heard a call down there from NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway. He's communicating with the Capcom, or capsule communicator, here in Mission Control, who for the Orbit 2 shift is Steven Zenter. The Capcom serves as the single voice link between the teams here on the ground and the crew on board the International Space Station. Throughout today's spacewalk, the Capcom will continue to communicate with the crew inside the International Space Station, but there will also be a ground IV who will be communicating with the crew going on today's spacewalk, and the ground IV for today is currently coming on console, and that will be NASA astronaut Anne McClain. And you hear them reference several different numbers throughout today's preparation, and those are all referenced to various procedure numbers that the crew, as well as the teams here on Mission Control, are following in preparation for today's spacewalk.
Speed pressure 3.4 and 3.4.
Airlock Houston on 1. You are now hot mic on Space Ground 1.
Copies, and we're just taking a quick look at switch configuration on EV2.
I see Ivy.
Yeah, Houston, we're just want to double check. We're seeing suit pressure on EV2 of 3.4. We were kind of expecting 4.2, but in IV that kind of makes sense that it's slowly breathes down, and so that reading of 3.4 is good.
That's a good value for us, Jack. We expect it will increase. This is part of the MEDEX change-out results.
Okay, cool. That all makes sense to us. We just want to do a quick double check. And I think I lost the bubble on where we are. You guys are still working through 80 and 81, is that right?
That's correct. We'll give you a call when we're done. But EV crew is hot mic on Space Ground 1, if you didn't copy that.
Okay, copy. We're standing by as you guys work through the steps, and EV1 and EV2 are hot mic on the big loops.
Copy. Copy.
This is Mission Control Houston. You were hearing some communication there between NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway, who you can currently see in the center of your screen. He was speaking with the Capcom or capsule communicator here in Mission Control, who currently is Steven Zinter. They were referencing some pressure readings on the EV-2 spacesuit. EV-2 today is ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adano. The EMU, or the Extravehicular Mobility Unit, which is the white spacesuit that the crews wear outside the International Space Station.
We are ready for you to pick up in step 81 and subs.
All right, we're going to work our way starting at 81.
Again, they were referencing some suit pressures, and those spacesuits typically operate at a pressure of around.
A couple cleanup steps for EV2 as we are, before we get into the Q card. You're not touched anything, but look on the UIA and check that the depressed pump power switch is in the off OFF.
Depressed pump power switch is off OFF.
You're going to verify the depressed pump enable LED is on ON.
Enable LED on ON.
Houston Airlock, looking for your go in 84 to start the crew lock depressed Q card.
You're going step 84.
Go in 84. All right, Sunil and Sophie, I am on the crew lock depressed Q card, step 1. So on the UIA, if you'll take that depressed pump power switch to the on ON position.
Depressed pump power switch to on ON, done.
All right, we're going to count 10 seconds as it spins up. EV2, you can reach out and take the depressed pump manual isolation valve to the open position, and you'll get an alert tone.
EV2, depressed pump man ISO valve to open now.
All right, for both 1 and 2, monitor your suit P gauge is less than 5.5, and if it gets up there, let us know.
1 copy. Copy.
This is Mission Control Houston inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room as teams continue to work through procedures for today's spacewalk, U.S. Spacewalk 98. The spacewalkers for today, NASA astronaut Neil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adano, are currently in the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock, and that depressurization process of the crew lock is currently underway. The crew lock pressure is now at about 12.4 psi, or pounds per square inch, and it began at a pressure of about 14.7 psi. It has to be depressed down to vacuum to match that of space, and then once that is complete, they will be able to open the thermal hatch and the hatch of the crew lock to exit the International Space Station to begin today's spacewalk. During this depressurization process, they will initially take the crew lock down to a pressure of about 5 psi, or pounds per square inch, and at that point they will go ahead and pause the depressurization process to complete some final suit leak checks and system checks before finishing the depressurization process.
Decreasing our way through 10 psi on our way down to 5.
1, 2.
And this is Mission Control Houston. You just heard a call out from NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway. You can see there in the center of your screen, confirming that the pressure of the crew log is now at about 10 psi or pounds per square inch as it continues the depressurization process down to vacuum. Again, they will pause at about 5 psi for some final leak and system checks before resuming and going all the way down to vacuum. Following that call out from NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway, you did hear a brief communication with the spacewalkers for today. Again, today's spacewalk is being performed by NASA astronaut Neil Menon, serving as EV1 in a suit with red stripes, and EV2 today is ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adano. Once the depressurization process is complete, again, that entire depressurization process takes about 30 minutes to complete. The spacewalkers will then go ahead and switch their suits to internal battery power, which will mark the official start of today's spacewalk. Today's spacewalk is scheduled to begin at around 7:35 a.m. Central Time, 8:35 a.m. Eastern Time, and is expected to last about 6.5 hours. Once they switch to internal battery power and that depressurization process is complete, the crew members will then go ahead and open the outer thermal hatch and then the hatch on the crew lock section. First out of the International Space Station today will be EV1, who again is NASA astronaut Neil Menon, and he will be followed shortly thereafter by EV2, who is ESA astronaut Sophie Adano. Once they exit the International Space Station, they will go ahead and set up their tools and tethers. Again, they have 2 tethers that attach them to the International Space Station at a given time. They will also turn on their helmet cameras, or their HECAs, and they will begin setup for today's spacewalk. They will also complete what are known as buddy checks, which is where both Neil Menon and Sophie Adano will basically be examining each other's suits and tethers to make sure that everything is in order before they begin to move away from the airlock. This is Mission Control Houston. Again, we're continuing to provide coverage of U.S. Spacewalk 98. The crew members for today's spacewalk are currently in the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock on board the International Space Station as the depressurization process for that crew lock continues. The pressure inside the crew lock is currently at about 6.5 psi.
6.5 psi. You get an alert tone at 6 on our way down to 5.0.
1, 2.
And you just heard that confirmation there from NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway that we had passed that 6.5 psi or pounds per square inch inside the crew lock as it continues its depressurization down to about 5 psi. Once the crew lock reaches that 5 psi point, the depressurization process will pause momentarily to complete some final suit and system checks before resuming it down to vacuum. Throughout that depressurization process, you do hear periodic call-outs by the crew, and this is as they are following the procedures for that depressurization process. Various call-outs are required during the monitoring process, and you do hear confirmation coming from the spacewalkers inside the crew lock as NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway provides those call-outs for them.
We are approaching 5.0 psi EV2. If you'd reach out and take the depress pump manual isolation valve to the closed position, then expect an alert tone.
Yes. Press pump and ISO valve is closed.
All right, copy closed. For both EV1 and EV2 on your DCMs, take the display switch to status until you see leak check ? Long yes to start it, and then follow the displayed instructions. Let me know when you guys are done.
Started.
And this is Mission Control Houston. You just heard the call out there that the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock on the International Space Station is now at 5 psi or pounds per square inch. The depressurization process of that crew lock has now been paused to complete some final suit leak checks and system checks before the depressurization process will resume. And we will hear...
Leak check complete. 02 to EVA, in work.
Copy EV1, leak check complete.
And we just heard confirmation that the first suit leak check is complete and they are
complete. Heading 02 to EVA, in work.
Copy EV2 leak check is complete, and let me know when both of you are in O2 actuator to EVA.
Okay.
And we just heard confirmation there that we do have 2 good suit leak checks. So they will complete some final system checks here on the ground.
Both EV1 and EV2 are O2 actuator to EVA. All right, Sophie, take the depress pump manual isolation valve to open. Expect an alert tone.
In work. Yes. pump man iso valve to open.
The open. I'm taking the emergency MPEV out here to open to help you guys. All right, both of you monitor your SUP gauge. If it gets up to 5.5, let us know.
1.
And this is Mission Control Houston. Following those suit leak checks and system checks at 5 psi or pounds per square inch inside the crew lock, that depressurization process has now resumed. Again, this depressurization will take the crew lock down to vacuum to match that of space. And at that point, the suits will be switched to battery power, which will mark the official start of today's spacewalk. Again, today's spacewalk is expected to last about 6.5 hours. As the crew works to complete the installation of a replacement space-to-ground or S-SCANT antenna. This is Mission Control Houston as the crew lock depressurization process continues ahead of today's spacewalk. That crew lock is now just under 3 psi or pounds per square inch. Once it reaches about 2 psi, the crew will go ahead and complete some additional procedures related to the manual isolation valve, and they will also report initial tether configurations ahead of egress. And then the final depressurization will take place, bringing the crew lock all the way down to vacuum.
We're passing 2.0 psi, EV2. You can reach out and take the depress pump manual isolation valve to the closed position.
Depress pump man iso valve is closed.
Copy closed, and on the UIA, you can take the depress pump power switch to the off OFF position.
Depress pump power switch is off OFF.
Copy OFF, and as always, it's a pleasure getting you guys to close the vacuum, and we will pass it off to Ann and the team down in Houston for the rest of your adventure today.
Thank you, Jack and Jessica, and hello, Ann.
Good morning, Anil and Sophie. It's game day. Let's do it. We'll take your initial tether config.
All right, I'll start off with EV1. Starting on the left, I've got a left E-ring extender that's attached to a small hook on my waist tether, close lock, black on black. Large hook is unlocked on that same D-ring extender. And moving over to the right, I have a D-ring extender.
This is Mission Control Houston inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room, which you can see a live look inside that room there on your screen. The Orbit 2 team of flight controllers being led by NASA Flight Director Chris Dobbins are on console.
Red reel, close lock, black on black. And then that anchor hook is on my MWF. On my red reel, I also have EV2's anchor hook, close lock, black on black. I'm going to hand it over to Sophie to go through her tether config.
Okay, thank you, Anil. I'll start with my right side, right D-ring extender. I have a waist tether, which is also gate closed locked black on black, and the other hand is on my mini workstation. On this right D-ring extender, I also have the red hook, gate closed locked black on black. Going to the red reel, which is unlocked. On this red reel, I have the green hook. It closed, locked, black on black. Red reel also leads to the yellow hook. Gate closed, locked, black on black, which is on the green reel. This green reel is locked, confirmed. And I see the anchor hook that is going to EV1's red, and I see it's gate closed, not black on black. On my left side, I have a D-ring extender with the small hook, gate closed, but black on black, going to the airlock waist tether, and I see both large hook of the waist tethers, gate closed, black and black, and the airlock waist tether small hook is gate closed, black on black on the airlock D-ring extender that gives a good load path to station.
All right, that is mostly a good config. And unfortunately, we had a handover in Hill right as you started talking. So if you wouldn't mind giving us your tether config again. We got everything after the green hook on the red reel, but we're looking for your the status of your red hook and your yellow hook on the green reel and your right waist tether.
Copy that. Right waist tether is on the right D-ring extender, small hook, close lock, black on black, and the large hook's on my MWF. And the red reel was unlocked. The yellow hook was on the green reel, close lock, black on black. Green hook was on the red reel, close lock, black on black. Green reel was unlocked, and then the anchor hook was on my MWF.
And Anil, we just need the status of your small red hook, please.
Red hook, close lock, black on black on my D-ring right side.
Okay, Neil, we appreciate the extra work there, and those are good tether configs. And for both of you, we're just above 1 PSI. We're expecting about 11 more minutes in the depress.
Good copy.
Good copies.
This is Mission Control Houston. You just heard NASA astronaut Ann McClain, who is serving as the ground IV, working through the initial tether configurations for EV1 and EV2. Again, for today's spacewalk, EV1 is NASA astronaut Neil Menon, and EV2 is ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adano. They reported those initial tether configurations ahead of egress, or exiting the Quest airlock of the International Space Station. That egress will come once the crew lock depressurization process is fully complete. There's about 10 minutes remaining in that depressurization process. The crew lock is just above about 1 psi, or pound per square inch. Again, it has to go all the way down to vacuum before that egress process can begin. Throughout today's spacewalk, you will hear NASA astronaut Ann McClain serving as the ground IV, speaking with the spacewalkers and walking them through the procedures for today. And then also there is a CAPCOM, or capsule communicator, who is Steven Zenter, and he will still be responsible for communicating with the crew members still inside the International Space Station. Installing or space to ground antenna on the International Space Station's Z1 truss. Last November, ESCANT number 2 began experiencing periodic pointing issues during auto-track operations, basically meaning it wasn't properly gimbaling or orienting itself to communicate with NASA's Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System, or TDRS. And as a result, the flight control team switched operations to ESCANT number 1, which continues to provide high-rate video, voice, and telemetry for controllers here in Houston and around the world. But following today's ESCANT installation, the redundancy for that space-to-ground antenna system will be restored. For a little bit of history, the very first space-to-ground antenna that was installed on the International Space Station's Z1 truss was carried into orbit on STS-92 in October of 2000. And the spare ESCANT, or space-to-ground antenna, that is being installed today to replace the degraded antenna was delivered on the STS-127 mission in July of 2009. The faulty antenna that was removed and temporarily stowed outside the International Space Station last week.
Okay, EV1 and Neil, step 13. You can verify the EV hatch gauge is less than 0.6.
EV hatch gauge less than 0.6.
Copy. You are going to open the EV hatch and stow it.
Uncopied go. In work. Hatch is open and stowed.
Copy. And for airlock, you can take the emergency MPEV to closed.
Emergency MPEV is closed.
Copy. Thanks. Okay, staggering switch throws, EV1 and 2. You can switch power to BAT and expect warning tone.
Okay, 1 will go first. Power BAT.
2 in work. Power BAT.
Copy for 1 and 2. You can now switch your display to Pro to verify functional display.
One has a functional display.
2 functional display.
Copy. Sophie, on the UIA, switch power EV1 and 2 to off OFF and check all 4 LEDs off OFF.
Switch power EV1 OFF, all LED off, and switch power EV2 OFF, and all 4 LEDs off. Expected H2O is OFF on my DCM.
Okay, we copy, and that is an expected message. For both crew, you can remove your SCU from your DCM, install the DCM cover, and stow the SCU in the pouch with pouch Velcro closed.
One copies in work.
2 copies in work.
This is Mission Control Houston with NASA astronaut Anil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adeno having placed their suits on battery power. Today's spacewalk has officially begun, that taking place at 7:27 a.m. Central Time, 8:27 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, today's spacewalk is the 283rd spacewalk in support of space station assembly, maintenance, and upgrades.
One stowed.
Stowed.
Copy. Sophie, you can check that the depressed pump man ISIL valve is closed.
Depressed pump my ISIL valve is closed.
Copy. For both crew, take your temperature control valve to max hot, lowest numbers.
One's max hot.
2 max hot.
Copy. You can both switch water to on, ON, water on.
One water on.
2 water on ON.
Check that your DCM is blank and your byte off.
One blank byte off.
2 blank byte off.
Copy. You can each set your temperature control valve as desired. And as you do so, just a reminder to report all TCV changes and best practice not to do large changes over 2.
One set 6 TCV.
2 TCV 5.
Okay, we copy both, and you can report your suit P gauge. We're about to have a handover, so you can set your visors as required, and I'll get your suit P on the flip side.
This is Mission Control Houston. We are currently in a brief but expected handover between tracking and data relay satellite system. We do expect to regain that communication with the International Space Station and the crew for today's spacewalk here shortly. You are continuing to hear some communication from the ground IV, which is Ann McLean.
I see that your EMU TV is on, the one that's up high that we don't use. You can press that button if you reach it.
And Houston is back with you if each crew can report suit P gauge.
One is at 4.3.
2 4.4.
Copy. 4.3 and 4.4. You can set visors as required. It'll be nighttime as we go. We see good suit parameters for both of you, so we do not need step 14, and we'll take care of 15 on the ground, and that takes us to egress. So, Anil, you are go to open the hatch thermal cover. You'll unhook the strap from the magnetic plate D-ring, move the hook to the tether point, cinch the strap, and report Sharpie lines.
Thermal covers in work.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, you're hearing communication from the ground IV here in Mission Control, who today is NASA astronaut Ann McClain. There on the upper portion of your screen.
Thermal cover is attached to itself on the D-ring, and it's got 6 Sharpie lines.
Copy 6 Sharpie lines. Anil, you are go to egress the airlock. Let's take the office outside.
Sounds great, Ann. One's egressing.
All right, and as you go out, your first step is going to be to attach your anchor hook on the forward airlock D-ring.
Work.
And Sophie, as you get a little more room in the airlock, your first step is going to be to transfer the medium ORU bag, if you'd like to prepare that.
In work.
Okay, EV1, safety tether is closed, lock, black on black, forward airlock D-ring.
Copy. You can take EV2's anchor hook to the aft D-ring.
This is Mission Control Houston. You're now seeing a view outside of the International Space Station. EV1, who today is NASA astronaut Neil Menon, has opened the thermal cover and is making his way outside of the International Space Station. And he is attaching his anchor hook. And then following that attachment, EV2 will follow.
Black on black to the aft D-ring. We both have good load paths. The EV2 to disconnect their waist tether when desired.
Copy. I'll wait until I'm outside.
Good words, Anil. You can now retrieve the ORU bag from Sophie and stow it on the airlock toolbox. And Sophie, just please report to us.
You're ready.
And just report to us if you're going to keep the large smallette on the bag or in the airlock.
The large small bag will be placed on the airlock, but it's going to be Anil releasing it as soon as he has his own ret on it.
Okay, I see the ORU bag.
Okay. Near towards you.
Got a hand on it. I'm searching for the handle. Okay. I've got the handle.
Copy. You've got the handle. It's still ready on the airlock.
Okay, I've confirmed a good ret on my MWF, and I'm going to release the airlock ret.
Okay, I am ready.
Released.
See it.
All right, nicely done. And Anil, as you go to stow that ORU bag on the airlock toolbox, Sophie, you can prepare crew lock bag 1.
And what?
This is Mission Control Houston. There you're seeing a live view of NASA astronaut Anil Menon, who is now outside of the International Space Station, and following him soon after will be ESA astronaut Sophie Adano. Anil today is serving as EV1, and Sophie is serving as EV2. You can also see a tool bag that is floating out there that they're getting strapped and ready for today's spacewalk. Today's spacewalk officially began at 7:27 a.m. Central Time, 8:27 a.m. Eastern Time, when the suits were switched to internal battery power. Today's spacewalk is expected to last about 6.5 hours.
Got one large hook on the top handrail, the toolbox. I'm going to put a second large hook on the bottom handrail.
Okay.
Okay, 2 hooks are down. And get my ret and come back to you.
Copy.
And Sophie, you can hand out crew lock bag number 1. That's number 1 to Anil. Anil, you'll stow that on your BRT and report the status of the large, small ret.
Two copies.
One copy.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, you're seeing a live look at NASA astronaut Anil Menon, currently outside the International Space Station as he continues to prepare some tools and bags for today's spacewalk, and then he will be joined outside of the Quest airlock here shortly by ESA astronaut Sophie Adano.
I'm pushing it towards you.
Here, see it. Stand by 1 sec. I'm going to just get the ret ready.
Yes.
And you can see that it is currently nighttime outside the International Space Station. So the space station does see 16 sunrises and sunsets per day. So the spacewalkers will be working in alternating light and darkness throughout today's spacewalk.
Okay. Got a hand on it. Pulling it towards me.
Copy. Houston, Sophie, TCV 3.
Copy TCB 3 for Sophie.
Okay, Sophie, I'm confirming a good ret to my BRT, so I'm releasing the ret to you.
Copy.
Are you ready?
And by 1. I am ready.
Okay. That's coming.
I've got it.
Give me 30 seconds to put this on my BRT.
Take your time.
This is Mission Control Houston. You just heard NASA astronaut Anil Menon reference a BRT. That is the body restraint tether. Each crew member is tethered to 2 parts at any given time. They also have a unit known as a SAFER, or Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue.
And you are go.
Copy, go.
Okay, and Anil will have you kind of go to the aft side, and Sophie for the forward side, so you can lead that translation.
And I was planning on rotating towards the starboard side. Did you want me to go aft or starboard okay? Forward starboard.
Yes, that's fine. We like your plan.
Coming out.
I see you coming out.
Stay firm.
Good, so. I can see your pliss hitting the hatch. So
Yeah, I'm working it.
okay. Let me know if you want. More vertical will do the trick.
Yeah, in work, rotation in work.
This is Mission Control Houston, EV2, which today is ESA astronaut Sophie Adano, is now making her way outside of the Quest airlock, and you can see
And clean.
Copy. You?
Good to see you guys out there. And when you're ready, you can turn on your HECAs.
One hecka on.
this is Mission Control Houston. Both NASA astronaut Neil Minna and ESA astronaut Sophie Adano are now outside of the International Space Station.
Copy, and close the thermal cover.
By one, I'm just relocating my left waist there.
You heard them referencing a HECA. That stands for the HD EMU camera assembly, basically the cameras that are attached to their spacesuits that you will see point of view camera views during today's spacewalk.
Looking good. All right, so you're clear, so we can close the thermal cover, correct?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to kick it your way.
And I'm pushing it.
Nice.
Nice.
Thermal cover closed, Dan.
Copy, thermal cover closed. You can position for buddy checks. And just one note for Sophie, we believe we saw your left safer handle up slightly, so if you could double check that one. And for both of you, we'll need HECAs, MWS tabs, safer handles, and then clear tethers and tools.
Copy. And emulating both of your safer handles up, slightly up as well.
Okay. Just we'll take a moment and do a confirmation. We're still, I can see your right down.
Okay, my left is down as well now.
Give me a second to...
Sure.
This is Mission Control Houston with NASA astronaut Neil Minna and ESA astronaut Sophie Adano now outside the International Space Station. They are currently performing a buddy check.
Okay, well, why don't I start with the buddy check here. I can see one green light. You can see 3 tabs are up. And can you rotate to your left so I can get a good look at your right? Okay, that right safer's down. Can you rotate the other way? Double check. I can see it, and it is down. Taking a good look at your tethers, will you give us your hat?
The hat is dry.
I think I know your tethers are in a good config.
Double checking. Are in good config. Right, let me do the buddy checks for you. up. I see 2 safer handle down. Can you move slightly your PGT just so that I'm sure about the right one?
Didn't work?
And that's, no, there's 1 centimeter. You can push it down a tiny bit more.
Is it parallax? I'm putting a lot of pressure on it.
Okay, that's down. Okay, I see 1 good green light. I see your 2 helmet lights for the lights. And your tethers look good. I see the acrylic bag, which looks good as well.
I like that. I'm going to move to the forward starboard side to clear some room for you.
Copy.
And Anil will take a baseline hap from you as well.
Hap's dry.
Okay, we see good buddy checks on both of you. So at this time, you are go to start translating. Sophie, you are going to lead the translation, and you're going to the port CETA cart. Anil, you're heading to S1 for the APFR setup.
Okay, reading the translation.
And as you do this translation, just keeping an eye on the tethers to make sure that they go where you want them to go.
Copy.
Copy.
This is Mission Control Houston. We did just hear confirmation that NASA astronaut Neil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adano have completed their buddy checks. During those buddy checks, each of the crew members examined the other one's suits and tethers to make sure that everything was in order before they began moving away from the airlock. They also reported on their baseline HAP status, and the HAP is the helmet absorption pad inside of their EMU, or the extravehicular mobility unit. They're now moving into the next portion of today's spacewalk procedures. And during this part, NASA astronaut Neil Menon will make his way to the APFR, which is the adjustable portable foot restraint, which will be attached to the space station's robotic manipulator system, which is the candidate arm to robotic arm. Also inside the International Space Station, NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway is preparing for his portion of today's activities. He is prime for the robotic operations from inside the International Space Station. So once the robotic arm is set up and NASA astronaut Neil Menon has safely entered his feet into the foot restraint, NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway from inside the space station will begin maneuvering that robotic arm.
And a reminder to both of you as you approach Phase 1 to avoid inadvertent contact with the deployed TUS cable, zenith and nadir of the CETA rails.
Copy, mindful of TUS cable.
Copy.
How about the CETA spur? Rail.
Copy, nicely done. And you're heading to the port CETA cart, and you'll be looking to position yourself to get the APFR. That'll be in WIF 3, which will be the top left when you get to the CETA cart. Anil, you know where you're going well. You're heading toward what'll be mile marker 6870. 6870.
6870. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70. 70.
This is Mission Control Houston. There on your screen, you can see both ESA astronaut Sophie Adano as well as NASA astronaut Neil Menon. Sophie is wearing the unmarked suit, serving as EV2 for today's spacewalk there on the left-hand side of your screen. And Anil is wearing the suit with the red stripes. He is on the right-hand side of your screen currently. Both of the crew members are currently translating on the International Space Station's truss structure. Sophie is currently translating to what is known as a port CETA cart. CETA stands for Crew and Equipment Translation Aid. They are working to retrieve the APFR, which stands for the Adjustable Portable Foot Restraint.
I'd like to let you know we've got great camera views of you. Families are watching. Mission Control is very happy to see you both out there.
Thanks, Ann. Good to know. Please give them a big hug from us. Have someone do it.
Let's see the cart.
Copy. You'll be retrieving the APFR from the port CETA cart with 3.
Copy.
And you did just hear ESA astronaut Sophie Adano call down and say that she had reached that port CETA cart. Again, that is the Crew and Equipment Translation Aid outside of the International Space Station, which is where the...
At the NTA, so I'm ready for handoff to Jessica at M1.
Copy. And Sophie, you have your steps at the port CETA cart, so we'll give Anil the comm, and Anil, you can give the M1 go to GCA to the published APFR install ingress position.
Copy.
Need any more comms, Sophie, or are you okay if I take it over?
Take it over. I'm good, thanks.
Okay, and for MCC, I can see a small sticker. It looks like a mile marker sticker that's headed nadir, twirling at about 1/4 meter per second.
We copy the sticker heading nadir.
And Jessica, how copy?
I've got you loud and clear, Anil. Are you ready for the GCA to the published APFR install position?
Ready for GCR.
Good work.
And I know you've got good clearances, Jessica, but I've also got good clearances, and I'll keep you abreast.
All right, we copy, Anil. You'll be helping with clearances. We're starting motion station aft in 3, 2, 1.
This is Mission Control Houston. We are currently about 29 minutes into today's spacewalk. That spacewalk beginning at 7:27 a.m. Central Time, 8:27 a.m. Eastern Time, when the crew's suits were switched to internal battery power. You're currently hearing NASA astronaut Neil Menon, who is serving as EV1 for today's spacewalk, and you can see him there on the left-hand side of your screen in the suit with the red stripes.
Copy. 60 centimeters to go. 30 centimeters remaining.
NASA astronaut Neil Menon is currently speaking with...
We're ramping out. We are at the published position. Will that work for you?
It worked last time, so I call GCA complete.
Okay, stand by for brakes.
Anil is currently speaking with NASA astronaut Jessica Meir.
Go for APFR install and ingress.
Okay, Sophie, we see you working the APFR. You can just bring that toward Anil when it's ready. And Anil, I'm ready to work your tether swap. Once you have your waist tether down, let me know and I'll read you steps.
My waist tether is down.
Copy. You can lock your green hook on your red reel.
Okay, green hook is locked on my red reel.
You can retrieve the yellow hook from the green reel and stow it on the SSRMS Lee tether point, checking gates and hooks.
Okay, I'm in work.
This is Mission Control Houston. You're now seeing the helmet camera, which is the HECA on NASA astronaut Neil Menon's spacesuit. We will see these views throughout today's spacewalk. They're providing some point-of-view visuals for each of today's spacewalkers. NASA astronaut Neil Menon is currently working alongside ESA astronaut Sophie Adenau as they prepare the SSRMS, which is the Space Station Robotic Manipulator System, which is also known as the Canadarm2 robotic arm. They will be working to install the adjustable portable foot restraint to that robotic arm. NASA astronaut Neil Menon is also currently working on some tether swaps, moving over to that space station robotic arm.
I'm on my way to you, Neil.
Great. Okay, the yellow hook is closed lock black on black on the Lee handrail.
Copy. Check that your red reel is unlocked.
Red reel is unlocked.
Copy. You can lock your green reel.
Green reel is locked.
And you can retrieve your green hook and stow it on the vertical NTA handrail. Then unlock the green reel.
Okay, north.
And Sophie, as Neil does that, if you want to look at the APFR, I can give you settings to confirm that we'll be using to install.
Copy.
All right, green hook is on the NTA handrail and the green reel is unlocked.
Copy, Neil. We are good with that tether path, so you guys can work together to install the APFR onto the arm. And you're looking for 12 Papa Papa Fox 6. That's 12 Papa Papa Fox 6.
Confirm Papa Papa Fox 6 confirmed. So we are good, and I confirm pitch knob can be depressed.
Okay, I'm
Copy,
in a good
pitch knob,
spot
thanks.
then, Sophie. If you can send it my way, once I have control of it.
Just sending it your way.
Okay, I have control.
Yes.
Sit on your ret if you can.
Yes.
Just going to position it. Almost there.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're about 36 minutes into today's spacewalk.
Black and color, black on black. Good pull, good twist test. And I'm going to release this ret to you, okay?
Okay, and I am ready.
And then, Dale, I think you said it, but I might have missed it. Confirm the clocking of 12.
Clocking of 12.
Okay, that's a good config on the APFR. We copy your pull twist and your black on black. And so, Anil, you can get in position to ingress the APFR when you're ready.
Okay, I'm moving to an ingress position.
We copy. And Sophie, if you want to wait and just make sure Anil's in a good position prior to starting your translation, you may.
Copy. Observing.
And so you know you guys are working incredibly efficiently right now. So we're just over half the time that we've allotted for the arm setup, and you're just about done. So really nice work this morning.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Saving that for the boom.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're about 38 minutes into today's spacewalk, which began at 7:27 a.m. Central Time, 8:27 a.m. Eastern Time.
We're going to have you hold right there until Anil is at the back-off position so that we can get an extra set of eyes and make sure we're all in a good config.
Copy. Observing and sending by.
The crew outside of the International Space Station for today's spacewalk are NASA astronaut Neil Menon, who you can see there on the left-hand side of your screen in the suit with the red stripes. He is joined by ESA astronaut Sophie Adeno, who has the unmarked suit as EV2. They recently completed the installation of the APFR into the SSRMS, which is the articulating portable foot restraint onto the space station's robotic arm. NASA astronaut Neil Menon is now working to ingress or attach his feet to that foot restraint on the robotic arm, and once that step is complete, then ESA astronaut Sophie Adeno will begin translation or movement to ESP-3, which is the external stowage platform 3 on the space station's truss.
You're doing great, Anil.
Thank you, Phil. I believe my tether is in front of my leg where I want it.
Yeah, in front of your left leg.
Okay. Can you confirm my heels?
The left one is not in. Need to go inboard, yeah.
Yeah, that feels good to me.
No, the left one is not in.
It isn't, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you're there. The left one is in. Let me just change body position to confirm the right one. Yes, the right one is in as well. So you're in great spot right now.
Nice to have you here. Okay, and I am in. So, ready for CA and next step.
Copy, and Neil will take a baseline glove inspection and a HAP check, please.
HAP dry. Both are nominal.
Copy. And again, Soph will hold you there. Neil, you can give M1 go to GCA to the publish APFR back-off position.
All right, I'm setting my TCB to 4. And to M1, you are go to GCA to publish back-off position.
All right, we copy. Brakes are off. We're getting set up.
And we copied EV1, TCV 4.
Neil, we're starting motion station forward in 3, 2, 1.
I see motion, good motion.
Concur.
Copy, continuing. Over 3 meters to go.
This is Mission Control Houston inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston, Texas. There on your screen, you can currently see a live view outside of the International Space Station as NASA astronaut Neil Menon is currently attached to the space station's robotic arm. That robotic arm being maneuvered by the crew still inside the International Space Station. A moment ago, you did hear the voice of NASA astronaut Jessica Meir, who is at the robotic station inside the space station assisting with today's operation alongside NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway. Prior to the movement of the robotic arm, Prior to the movement of that robotic arm, NASA astronaut Neil Menon strapped his feet into an articulating portable foot restraint.
Good to go.
Once you're at the backup
Oh,
position.
looks good. Sorry.
We're at the back off position, and Neil, we'll get set up for the JoeCast immediate.
Okay.
Okay, with that, Sophie, as they get reconfigured, you are go to start your translation toward ESP3. Reminder is a warning to avoid contact with grapple fixtures. That's on the that's zenith of the FSE. So at this time, you can translate starboard under the MT, and you'll be dropping your green hook on handrail 3217, which is just on the outboard edge of the starboard Zeta cart.
Copy 3217.
Good number. And I think that the Zeta card will block the mile markers, but if not, it's mile marker 5760.
Okay.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're now just over 43 minutes into today's spacewalk. NASA astronaut Neil Menon, serving as EV1 in the suit with the red stripes on the upper center portion of your screen, is currently in the articulating portable foot restraint attached to the robotic arm on the space station. And ESA astronaut Sophie Adeno, there in the upper left corner of your screen, is translating on the International Space Station's truss structure over to ESP3, which is External Stowage Platform 3 on the Port 3 truss of the space station. Once they are at that location, they will then retrieve the spare SCANT, or space-to-ground antenna. We're currently...
2, 1.
See motion, good motion.
This is Mission Control Houston. You can currently see a live look inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room. The Orbit 2 team of flight controllers is currently on console, being led by Flight Director Chris Dobbins for today's spacewalk.
Back with you after I hand over.
Got you.
Starboard Zeta cart.
Copy, starboard Zeta cart. Congratulations on your first MT translation.
Thank you, Anne. B217 insight and inward for the Greenwood.
Copy, Sophie. And as you put your green hook down, you can start to give a recon to your translation path. The diagonal beam that we've talked about is probably down there to your lower left. And again, if that doesn't look tenable, then you can always translate outward more first.
Copy.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, there on your screen, you're seeing a live view of the outside of the International Space Station. And there in the upper portion of your screen, you can see the space station's robotic arm, which attached to the end of that robotic arm and an articulating portable foot restraint is NASA astronaut Neil Menon, who today is serving as EV1. Neil and EV2, which today is ESA astronaut Sophie Adano, are currently making their way over to External Stowage Platform 3, or ESP3, on the Port 3 truss of the space station to retrieve the spare space-to-ground antenna, or SCANT.
Copy, green hook on 3217. Nicely done. So you can continue your translation starboard. And you can use that diagonal I-beam if you'd like, or let us know if you choose to go starboard first.
Okay. I'm going to choose symmetrical diagonal compared to the one that we've reached. There are far less cables, and my body position as well as feathers will be much better.
Okay, down to intermediate NL.
Okay.
This is Mission Control Houston. You can currently see a view from the helmet camera of ESA astronaut Sophie Adano as she continues her translation along the truss structure of the International Space Station over to the External Stowage Platform 3.
Intermediate position, we're getting set up for the next maneuver.
And you also just heard some...
And Sophie, if you're going to take the 90-degree path, you're looking for mile marker 5490, and you should see an I-beam headed straight down toward Earth that has WIF 19 on it. That's mile marker 5490.
5490 inside. So I'm not going to take this one. I'm going to take the opposite diagonal.
Copy, the opposite diagonal, and if you head out that direction, there's also would be a handrail path just inboard of the Sarge that can take you down nadir also.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, you're seeing a view from ESA astronaut Sophie Adano's helmet camera as she continues to translate to the External Stowage Platform 3, where she will meet NASA astronaut Neil Menon to be able to retrieve the spare space-to-ground antenna, which will be installed later today on the Z1 truss as part of today's spacewalk objectives. As Sophie is making her way over to that stowage platform, periodically you can see a mirror on her left arm, and those mirrors on their spacesuits are often used to view suit controls and labels as they complete these spacewalks.
And Sophie, as you get out there, just outboard of ESP3, below handrail, or mile marker 5250 is where you'll find some handrails that you can take nadir also.
I'm in a good position right now and heading to B045 for the Foreman for lead.
copy. We see you. Nicely done. Great work on that translation. You'll be heading now aft on the inboard side of ESP3 to our ESCANT FSE. And reminder about that grapple fixture, just to not come in contact with